I'm going to do something a bit different in this video. I'm going to share a PC build that I've ordered the parts for, because to be honest, it's been something that I've put off for a long time. I'm really annoyed with myself, really, to be honest. I've had some very high-end PCs at the time that I built. It cost me an awful lot of money. That, for one reason or another, I ended up selling and regretted each time. But ultimately, I've got a gaming laptop as well, and in hindsight, perhaps shouldn't have bought that in the first place, but it has been useful. It's a really nice gaming laptop, but I miss having that high-end PC, that ability just to push things and have all the extra ports that come with it, rather than adapters going everywhere. And I just think it's an awful lot tidier. Of course, comes with a price. Now, the reality is, whenever you start with something like that, you just think, God damn, it's going to cost a fortune. But I realise if I don't do the small steps towards it, I won't ever do it. It'll just always be too far away. And I just think if you do the little bit at a time, it'll make it a bit more viable. Now, usually when you build a computer, you want to just get all the parts together at the time for compatibility reasons, but also hardware changes. So, for instance, you might buy a part, and if you're not going to put it together for 6 months, first of all, that price might have been cheaper in the future. So you've just paid too much. And there might be a newer model that comes out that you could have got. So it's just a bit stupid, really. But there are actually parts to the system, it's parts that I'm acquiring, that actually you don't really have that issue. They're more things that would be a bit more long term. And I've got them at such a good price that it was just ridiculous not to jump on it. Even though, to be honest, it's pushing me. Even just this small outlay is pushing me to the brink, to be totally honest, to the point where it's almost like praying on a miracle. I need to recoup the money. It's not a case of I need to sell things to finish the build. I need to sell things to cover the cost of what I've already spent. So what I am trying to do is sell my laptop, my gaming laptop, but I'm not going to undersell it. I'm not undervaluing anything. So if it sells, it sells. If it don't, I'll just have to suffer the consequences, and it'll just take longer to finish the build. But, I'm not giving that up easily. I've got a PS3 that I was putting together, but since then, I haven't really used it, and I've acquired other things, so it's made it a bit more obsolete. So again, I've got a lot of games for that. Like, if someone's collecting a PS3, for instance, I literally have pretty much most of the games they'd be looking to collect. So it just makes it a no-brainer for someone that looking for something like that. And then my iPod, I didn't want to sell my iPod. I want to keep it, but only for nostalgia reasons. If we're talking practicality, do I really need it? Probably not. And, is it going to be helpful to sell it? Yeah. So it means today, and sometimes I weigh things up like that. Would I rather have that or the computer that I'm trying to build? The computer I'm trying to build, then let's do that. And that's what I'm doing. So effectively, I'm pushing myself a little bit here, even though you wouldn't argue it's an awful lot of money, but when things are a bit tighter than one would hope, it does push. So what I want to do, I'm going to show the parts I've ordered. I'll explain it briefly, the parts. It might help people who are looking to start build themselves. And when it all comes, I might show the process of putting it together only up to the parts I have. It's just, I'm only missing 2 parts, to be totally honest. It's going to be the 2 most expensive parts, but 2 parts nevertheless. So let's show the process. I'll show the bits I've got coming. So, one of the major parts you've got to do is think about the presentation. So, like, what case do you want? Because that has a huge bearing. I probably spent 2 days just flipping between black case, white case. I've had white and I've had black in the past. I like both. I quite like black, but I just think the parts get lost. It's really hard to see them sometimes, Of course, you could put LEDs in, but I don't know. I just think it's a cleaner look with the white. But anyone that knows anything about collecting a variant color like white, or even if you went pink, it's the parts actually cost more money. It's harder to find. You don't have as many options, so it can get pricey. But I've actually so far done some incredible bargains that it's working out beautiful. The only exception, I think, is probably going to be an extra £60-70 for the graphics card, because if you want a white one, it's going to cost a premium, unfortunately, which is going to be frustrating, because then you could go up a level with more powerful premium cards. So I'm going to have to weigh that one up. What color? Does it have to be white, or am I happy with black? Or whatever color it is, really. Anyway, so I really like Corsair. They're my favorite brand in casing and a lot of products. So I trust them. I've had a good few cases from them, to be honest. That's what I've gone with. Now, it's costing me more than Amazon. Amazon have just reduced the price to £75. I've had to pay £92. I'm paying £15 more. But I've actually used Klarna to do that. So it's like split over 3 different monthly payments, which just It's not a lot of money, but split it just makes it easier to get the rest of it. So yeah, I could try and cancel that, but then it's just, what's the point? But anyway, so this white case, but I like the fact that it's got this nice glass panel that goes around the entire front, not just the side, but the front as well. And I just think that gives you a real nice premium look, especially if we get some nice fans in there and make it as clean as possible. It could look really, really stunning. I've seen builds where people use RGB LEDs, where you've got like blues, yellows, all sorts of shit flying around. I think that looks tacky in a white case. In a black case, it can look okay. I've found with white cases, when I've seen builds, I think white LEDs on the fans look really, really nice. It's clean. So that's really what I'm going to be aiming for. Just clear white LEDs on the fans, and I think it's going to look stunning. So that's the tower. We'll go a little bit of better image in a minute after that. Then we've got this cooler. This is the one that goes to the top of the case. You can put it on the side of the case as well, but really predominantly put it on the top. And it's water cooling for the CPU. So you can do an air cooler. It's really bulky. And I don't mind them either, to be honest. But the water coolers do look cleaner and they are more efficient. Usually they're quite expensive. It can be up to about 100, usually around about £100 for that. And an air cooler could be like 30, £40. So what I've done here with this one, it's an open box from a retailer and it's Scan Computers, who I've actually shop for. I know their store, like online. So they obviously have an outlet on eBay as well, like a lot of them do, to reach more people. So this one is one that's opened, and from what it's saying, it's got certain branding on this, just branding. You're not really going to see the branding, I don't think, but either way, it seems to be maybe the newer model probably doesn't have the branding, is what it sounds like. But anyway, £50, and I'm like, well, they're normally about £80, £100, especially a free one, a 360mm. So that's really good. But I also, because I'd sold something on eBay, they gave me, if you spend £50 or more, you can have £15 off. That item is exactly £50, so I've got £15 off. So I've got it for £35. So the equivalent normally would be about £100. Because this is new but opened, but they're still saying it's new, like everything's good. I'm like, well, you've got a £100 cooler effectively for £35. It might be worth slightly less, I don't know, but I'm just saying roughly a £100 cooler for £35. That's a bargain. Yeah, I don't even have the CPU yet, but it's getting things together. So effectively, we've got the case, we've got this cooler, and then I've also got, if we can find it, this is the cooler anyway, before we get any further, just so you can see it. Look, it's really cool. It's it's white, so it's going to go perfect with that case. Not sure about this. I don't know if you can change that colour in. I'm not a big fan of green, but if it has to be that colour, so be it. That'd be a bit of a shame, but I don't know. I don't suppose you will be able to change that, in all honesty. I don't see how you can. If it is so, I mean, it's not that big a deal. It wouldn't glow so bad in a white case anyway, to be honest. So we got that. Then I got this the motherboard, which is obviously the main part to your system, and I really like the look of it. I thought this is really nice. Other systems I've had, storage has changed to these little chips that are like M.2, they're called SSDs, and they're really fast. And you get them in your PlayStations, you get them in your PCs nowadays. And normally you only get one slot. At least the computers I used to build was one slot for that. So it was a bit annoying. If you bought a smaller size, all of a sudden you want to double it, but you're stuck with a spare one. You've got a whole process. This one's got 3 slots. So I'm like, oh, that's nice. It looks premium. It is a premium model. It's literally got a Wi-Fi as well. This little band here. Look, I don't know if it's got a picture of it. Oh, you can't really see it, but it's here. And it screws into the back, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, I've done a little bit of research on it and things, but a lot of capacity storage for this. And got an image here. So that's effectively what will go in. Of course, it's not white; it's silver, but I think silver is going to look clean in white anyway, with obviously the black bold. But I think if you went just pure white everywhere, there'd be no character. So I was really impressed with this. It's £170 normally, but I've got one where someone's returned it to Amazon, and they're saying it's in very good condition. They've obviously done their checks. And if there's something wrong, you just send it back. But I've got it for £106. So it's supposed to be 169. I've got it for 106. Bear in mind, it's DDR5. So DDR5 motherboards that all range from about 108, well, 170 there onwards. They're very expensive at the moment. So you got it for 105, which is a big bargain. So we've already got that. We've got the cooler, which will attach to this part here, with one of the CPUs in it. And we've got the case. This is the Amazon equivalent. It's got better for us to be able to see the image, so you can see what it looks like. I think it looks really nice. And these are the sort of things you can do to it. It can look really, really pretty. I'm not a big fan of the colourful RGB lighting, to be totally honest. I mean, that looks quite nice, actually. I suppose you could do something like that. So you can get it with the lights, but because they come with the white, I'm not sure if you can turn them LEDs white or not. So I didn't want to bother with it. That's why That's why I'm going to just put my own fans in. Anyway, so that's them. So we've got the cooler, we've got the case from a different outlet, but the same case. We've got the board, and I've got the RAM, got the memory. 32 gigabyte DDR5 for £86. And I thought, well, to be honest, I don't suppose you're going to get it cheaper than that. Plus, it's white. I was like, no way. You go on eBay, it's a lot more money on eBay. They're about £130 on eBay. It's crazy. So anyway, I'm getting everything at the best prices you can. I can't see ever getting DDR5 for less than that sort of price, no, like at all. 32 gig is loads. Like I said, I've got that £70 off, near enough. This we've saved about £70 as well. So I'm not stupid. I'm doing research. I paid slightly more for the case, but that was because I can pay over payments. Now, you could think that's really stupid paying payments because you're probably not going to be able to finish the build by then. But really, for me, it's pushing me to get it done. So it'll be sitting there with the majority of the computer put together because I've also got this. It's normally I'd want a bigger power supply, but if you're going to be just starting just to get it working, it'll be the last thing I buy because I've got one. So I've already got this 600 watt EVGA. I do prefer Corsair, and I would normally get 750 watt 800, but I'm pretty sure this one will still be fine to power it until I can upgrade later. So anyway, that'll be the last upgrade. The storage, I have a 2 terabyte that I've put in my PS5, so I can just if we're talking about getting things done as soon as possible, I can just take that out of the PS5 and put that straight into the computer. All of a sudden, we've got the storage, we've got a power supply that's just sitting there ready to be used. We've got the case, got the motherboard, got the CPU cooler, we've got the RAM. All we then need is the CPU, which is one of the main things, and a graphics card. Unfortunately, the graphics card ones I'm looking at, I think it's a 5070, but I'm not stuck on that yet. I don't want to go too low, but then I don't want to push it too expensive. But that's going to be about £500 just for the graphics card, and the CPU is going to be between 200 and 250. So the real problem is, even after all this, it's still £750 short of finishing it. But I'd rather be at that stage than having to find all of it. You know, if I've put half the effort in, it's not such a milestone to finish it. And like I said, normally you wouldn't do all that. But the thing is, it's an AM5 board, so the chipset of that isn't realistically going to change over the next 6 months, for instance. I don't know when I'll be able to do it, but that's not going to change. But the CPU may change. Do you know what I mean? Like the speeds and the new architecture, but it'll still be an AM5. So my board at 105, you're never going to get it cheaper than that. That's too good a deal. The memory, this RAM, I've got it here, look, 32 gig, brand new sealed. That's never going to be less than 86. Even if it is, it'd be £10 less at the very best, and it's not even likely to. If anything, it's going to go up in price, especially it being white. So it makes sense to have hold of that. The case at 92, we've seen it go 76. It's never going to be less than 76. So I've paid £15 more overall. That's not the end of the world. That's the one saving. Getting the cooler, that's 35, but you're never going to get a water cooler, a 360 millimeter, the one that goes a full length for the top of the case. You're never getting that for £35. It's because of the discount code I had and the fact that it was used open, and that was the only issue with it. So, like, for what I'm getting, these are all things that newer models wouldn't make. Newer anything wouldn't eradicate it, but like the graphics cards tend to have new models every year. So if you was to buy one, and it's a bit like getting an iPhone, you know, you get it at the wrong period of the year, it's a waste of time because the new one comes out and it's like you could have had the new one, or the old that would have been cheaper later. So yeah, I think it's prudent to get the CPU and the graphics card last. Anyway, that's pretty well I'm up to. So I might show the process of putting it together once I've got it. But again, it'll be missing 2 very important pieces. Now, there's a chance if I don't feel the urge to, though. You can always downsize in the sense of buy a used CPU that's slower just to get the thing working. You could do that, go on eBay or something, or somewhere like that. And a graphics card, you could lower your expectations, get a cheap used one again, just to get the thing built. But I just think you're double buying, aren't you? It's not always going to be easy to resell the parts you didn't really want. I think it's better just to wait to finish it, you know? So I'd rather like put myself in a temporary crisis at the moment if that's what it's going to cost. Like if if all the where I said I'm trying to sell a few things, if they don't sell and I'm stuck, I'll just accept that I'm stuck this month. It's so what? Because at least the build's nearly finished. It just needs the 2 pieces left, and I'd rather be in that position than sending things back and having to look at. You know, I mean, I don't want to keep sending things back. You know, I've sacrificed a lot. Like I deserve this, to be totally honest. And I'll tell you why. You know, to myself, I say I know to myself I deserve this because where I've done my books, I've left situations to allow myself the capacity to do the books. Not just the books, but everything else I do, but really predominantly the books. And one of those was a toxic job I left, and money was really tight after. We had mounting bills that had to be taken care of. So that's why I sold my gaming computer, and I really didn't want to sell it. But it was a means to. It was an expensive computer that I put together. The graphics card alone cost me £800 at the time. I was getting good money. I was doing well, but obviously once the money dried up, it was like, oh, yeah, but I'm sitting on something incredibly expensive here that will help pay my bills. So, you know, so I left the job because it was toxic, and it allowed me to finish work. Like I was continuing to work on projects and things. And you know, the sacrifice to do those things comes at a cost. And I haven't been rewarded at all for the work I've done. You know, I've done 6 books. I don't seek pity, but I've done 6 books and I've never received the reward for them. You know, and like so for me, I deserve something here. At the very least, a freaking computer that's not that out of this world. It's not like beyond the. You know, it's a little. It's expensive when you're poor. It's not so expensive when you've got a bit of a means about you, I guess. Because I've done it before, you know. Like I say, I've lost a lot along the way. Of course, I've gained along the way too, so I'm not saying that. But even if you look at the thing, like if anyone sees my content recently and you see the things I've got, where I've got this VR and I've got a Switch 2, I'm leasing them, you know. These are things that are getting paid monthly, and at the end of the cycle, when that lease is up, it's either you have to pay the full value of what it's worth at that period, or return it, or continue making the payments. That's your options. So again, in that sense, I feel I deserve them items naturally to be able to buy them. So, you know, it might seem that I live more luxurious than it is. I always say that it's not as glamorous as it looks, and it gets really frustrating. You know, again, I don't say things for pity. It's just for my own self. I recognize I deserve nice things, and I want to have nice things. Like I want to have that because it's something that I've had in the past, and it's almost like I want it back. But rather than have that back, I'm going to build a nicer one. It's to go upgrade. But I don't mind losing to get it. So, I mean, in the ideal world, I'd keep my gaming laptop. It's really nice. It's portable. But even I know I'm barely going to use it. Once the other one's built, well, that's an expensive item just to have as a backup or in case you need it somewhere else, which is very unlikely. So, yeah, for me to sell the laptop, it's a gaming laptop. It's got a really nice screen. It's powerful enough for the average person. That would really only recoup the price of the graphics card I need and the CPU. That's how crazy building a computer is, and reset and selling in the used market to sell things. But if it finishes it and it makes this nice, powerful replacement, great. Like I said, the iPod really would. I'll probably get about 120 for the iPod because I've got a speaker with it as well. What does that recoup? You know, it recoups. It just if you think about it, it really recoups the memory, the RAM I just got, and the cooler or something like that. You know, it's not a lot, but at least it's recouping those things. So if it can help with that, fine. If I can get the money, if I can sell the PlayStation 3, that will get me the money for the case and the motherboard I bought. So all of a sudden, it's took care of the things I've paid for. Because to be totally honest, those items I wouldn't put. It's unlikely I'd invest any more in the computer until I'm comfortable enough to be able to invest more. Because there's no point. I could go mental trying to get this CPU, but I'm still without a graphics card. So realistically, The PlayStation and the iPod will pay if I can sell them. It will just recoup the cost I've paid already. So that would be useful in the immediate. So you're not like in struggle, I guess. And then if I can sell my gaming laptop, it'll finish the build. So fingers crossed, you know. But I say it's really frustrating. I think when you have nice things at one period of time and you feel like you're going backwards sometimes, you know. I know it's trivial to some people, but I'm a gamer and it's not even gaming. Like I do the videos I do, you know. I need the ports on my laptop. My laptop only has like three ports. I've got two of them. I've got freaking USB hubs and they've got cables going off them. And some of the devices they throw a hissy fit. If you put something else in it, it knocks them off. Sometimes my keyboard gets shut off because it literally I think it's because either it's the bandwidth of the freaking thing. Either it's the bandwidth or the power usage, because obviously sometimes they charge the device for it, but it knocks off all the other devices in the hub. Sometimes, but a PC, for instance, got a higher wattage power supply, so it can power more, has loads of built-in USB ports. So for someone like me, a content creator, for instance, I kind of need all those ports. And that's the limitation with this. I'm like pushing this system, this laptop, as far as I can push it. And it gets really annoying because sometimes it just shuts itself down because I'm pushing it so hard. I don't think the literally power block that plugs it in, you know, your mains power. I don't think the power block, on it, isn't it on the laptop, it's outside. I don't think it can handle half the stuff I throw at it. Just because I'm trying to make it do too much at times, you know. So it stands to reason I really should have that there. I mean, I really do run things at a minimum, and I don't think people realize I have to record this in my room, in my bedroom, with a freaking green screen I have to drag around with me. It's literally on a frame, and it just covers the back, so it actually makes it at least make it presentable to a degree. But it's freaking annoying, you know, having all these limitations. You sort of everything's at the bare bones. That's what it feels like. Everything's bare bones. And it's a grind just to get anywhere. I don't seek pity. I'm just trying to show people how hard it is. You know, I've got this really nice microphone. I've got this really nice mic arm. I've got a nice camera that I've upgraded over the time. These are investments that I spend and I get no reward for it. You know, I've received not a penny. I don't get any money for my videos. I don't even know why I do it sometimes. You know, I just think, what on earth are you doing this for? You're using your time and you're definitely spending money. And it's like you're gaining nothing out of it. It's just the hope that I help people, you know. That's what it all comes down to because I feel a calling to do it. And I feel it's something I'm supposed to do. But when you think about it financially, it's like an absolute depreciation, isn't it? A microphone costs £170. Again, if we look at the cost to outlay, like to receive, I get nothing. So that's cost me £170. The mic arms cost me £100. The cameras cost me about £120. That's a 4K camera. It's a really good one, by the way. Incredible value. But even just those items, plus I've got an audio interface where the microphone plugs into. That was about £120. So for the microphone and the audio interface, you're looking at £300. Plus this mic arm is £100. That's £400. Plus the camera's another £100. That's £500 just for a camera, microphone, audio interface it connects to, and a freaking mic arm. It's £500. Of course, I use it for other things like my gaming videos I do. But again, what's the point of half of that stuff? When you actually add it up, it's like we're paying money and we're not getting anything in return. So life is just like it's just a constant battle, you know. Anyway, I don't know. It just all gets annoying. I just feel like I'm bashing my head against a wall a lot of time in life. It's just frustrating, you know. It's like something that's not that big a deal becomes a big deal. But like I said, I'm taking matters into my own hands. I'm not going to keep waiting and keep looking at the bigger costs and go, oh, it's going to cost you £1,200-1,500 to build a computer, for instance. It's like, I haven't got £1,200-1,500. But if we could get like halfway through that cost, and then you've only got halfway to go at a later date, I think that's just you can sort of I can accept that. But always being so far away from it just makes it an impossible goal, you know. So really, that's what I'm striving for. But believe me, once it's done, it'll be so powerful, and it'll last years. It'll literally last years. And that's really the goal, really. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. But like I said, once the parts come, I haven't decided what I'm doing yet because there is a chance, a real chance, that finances get that hard. If all the stars don't align, you know, in terms of the fact that I might have to sell some things, probably will. I may have to return things that can go back. Stuff like Amazon, you can return things quite easy. But to be honest, I'm quite fortunate I didn't get the case from Amazon because at the bare minimum, I definitely want to keep the case because sometimes they change designs, and that might be that case you can't buy anymore, things like that. And I think it's just a good start to have at least that as a basic thing. So, like for instance, if I can't, and the fan, I've got that from eBay, but it's harder to return things like that. You can, but what's the point of returning that? It's £35. But if I have to return the memory, the RAM, this, keep it wrapped for now. That's what I'm thinking, because I can just return it as is, and it's £85 back. Um, the motherboard I could send back for 105. Wouldn't want to, but again, if I send them both back, I'm nearly £200 up again. But again, that's £200 back again. I've got to try and find, and it probably won't be that. It'll probably be harder. I think if I return them, I'm going to be looking about £150 next time for a motherboard. So that's an extra 45, 50 quid. And the memory could be about 110. I wouldn't be surprised. So again, it's like it costs to just keep adding, and you're getting further away from the goal. So it's like, if things don't work out, can you survive? I don't know. It might be some late payments, which incur fines or fees, if you like, this month. Then I've got to ask myself, is it worth it? If I deem it unworth it, then I may have to return some things again. But I'm hoping in the interim that things just sell. I would rather that. Like, I'd rather lose my PlayStation and keep the bits I'm building, because I feel like I'm making progress. If any of this makes sense. So I've not decided if I'm going to open things to build it yet. I want to, of course. I'd like to do that just to get things moving. Because then ultimately, all it would need, if I did all that, put the motherboard in, well, you got to put the cooler in first. I've had that so many times. You put the board in first because that's the natural thing to start with. And then you can't seem to get to the freaking connectors and stuff and the screws to put the cooler in. So you're always better off putting the water cooler in at the top before you even do anything. Get the water cooler in, then put the board in, and you can start working from there. But it's still missing the two other items, but they would just slot in. So the CPU, you would just obviously put the case on its side, put the CPU in, put the cooler, attach the cooler, the cover bit straight on top of the CPU. Then all of a sudden it's doing the cooling, so it doesn't overheat. And then of course the graphics card, and that just slots in the slot. You just literally easy peasy, plug it in, away we're going. Because the rest of the thing's already been built. You've already put the things together, or everything's connected. Two simplest items after. So yeah, there's part of me that would like to build it, but the other part's trying to be sensible, saying you're going to have to see how the next few weeks go. It's almost like I'm throwing a Hail Mary. And it's quite sad though, isn't it? After all this effort, we're still so far away from the end goal. But I'm not someone that, I don't really you get down in periods, but I'm always someone that's quite optimistic. Even if it's the final hour or the final minute, and it's like it looks like the time's finished. I'm always of the notion anything can happen at any minute. You don't know. You can always worry and look too far to the future and keep saying, "Oh, it's impossible." Well, we'll see what's impossible. Let's just see. Let's just see, because anything could happen. Someone could see my laptop and go, "Oh, that's the perfect laptop for me." Boom. They pay the money I want for it. Someone might look at my iPod. I've got two people looking at the iPod at the minute, to be honest. That could sell and go straight away. Someone might finally just pull the plug and say, you know what, I want a PS3. This guy's got all the games I'm looking for. Saves me collecting them. It's a fair price for the amount of games. I've got like 45 games, by the way, So it's like someone buys it. They've got literally a whole generation of console right there. So, and I don't care because I don't need it. But it's like, if someone got them items, all of a sudden it changes my whole outlook. So if someone was to buy my laptop, the PS3, and the iPod, that'd be the whole computer build ready to be done. Half of that pays for what I've already spent, and then the laptop would pay for the graphics card and the CPU, which would finish the build. And then at a later date, I would put a new a power supply in just to make sure it's reliable. There's no like short circuits or anything. Nothing's pushing the power supply to the point where because you don't want a power supply failing, because that would literally, it could kill your CPU, it can kill your RAM, it can kill the motherboard, it cause all sorts of trouble. You definitely don't want to do anything. So I definitely want a more powerful one in there in the long term. And what was the other thing I was going to put in? Oh, I do need the fans as well. Definitely need some fans in there, but they're only cheap. You can get cheap ones to begin with if real needed. And storage, probably more storage. But it's 2 terabyte anyway, the one I've got. But it comes out of the PlayStation. The PlayStation could do that. But anyway, bit of a ranty one, isn't it? I just thought I'd sort of like update people a little bit there. I know it's a ranty thing, but I often think this when I do my videos. I always know if there's an audience that's interested in my personal growth videos, they're not going to be interested in this. But what it is, I like to educate people in different ways. So I know there's going to be a community of PC gamers, and I get that. But there's going to be a community of, like, there's going to be a lot of people who don't know anything about that, and just hearing about it might be of interest and open their minds to things. It's the same way where I share my gaming videos. I know it might annoy people if they're not into it. They might think, "Oh, what's he sending? What's this point of it?" I don't. Maybe you see there's a video coming and it's that, and you're not liking it. But no one says everybody has to like every video. It's just pick and choose the ones you want to watch, and it shouldn't really be that offensive if it's something you're not interested in. But I just think there might be people that don't play video games, and maybe they can play the video games through me. That's what I see it as. And I just look at the platform because I was going to I've got different channels, but I get fed up dancing between them all. I just think I want my channel to be me in whatever capacity it is, whether it's me sharing physical media like movies, and then me talking about like gaming and computer related stuff, and tech, or even reading a book, whatever it is, this is me, and I'm showing different sides of me. And I just, like I said, people don't have to enjoy it all, but I just feel like just want my channel to be me. I don't want it to be like specific. I don't want it to be like podcast Steve. I mean, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for all sorts of me, and it's all playlists are all managed. You can sort of find the content you want. Because ultimately, it's my channel. But I do recognise that I will lose people along the way. But then I just think they obviously follow me for the wrong reason. Then because people trying to maybe they're trying to pigeonhole me to be what they want me to be, and it's like, well, I never said I was going to be that. So there'll always be different content popping up. And at the moment, I don't really want to spread it over multiple channels. I want me to be the channel. Like I said, it might open people's eyes because I'll go through phases. There's going to be. I was thinking soon I might start doing some more reading, so I might get some books, random books, and start reading the first chapter. Because again, I want to get people into things. Maybe it gets people into reading themselves. It might inspire them to read or even create content. In the same way, me talking about building a computer and things, it might make people interested in the process of that. Even maybe going as far as to do it themselves. And me share my gaming, even VR, it might make people interested in that, where they go and invest in it and they check it out. Or if they don't, at least they can see it through me. So, you know, there is that. There is a different video I was going to create, which I probably won't do today, but I might do soon. It's about, well, again, I like talking about different things that bother me, things that are sort of on my mind. And at the moment, I'm getting a bit fed up with the way people over promote. If you look at my branding, I don't over promote. I don't do clickbait. I don't like it, and I'm starting to wonder whether other people are in the same boat as me, whether they're getting fed up with it too. So I want to talk about that in a different video. Again, it's completely different to this. Anyway, yeah, God, it's just life's so freaking hard at times. I think sometimes you just got to take things into your own hands. That's what it is. It's like you can keep waiting and waiting, but in the end, you just say, "What is it you want? Let's go for it." That's kind of what it is. It's like a Hail Mary, but you just know there's going to be some shit along the way because I've gone beyond my means, to be totally honest, and I know I have. And I was like, oh, damn it! But it's just too good a deal. I can't just like walk away from that, even though I should. Like that cooler, I was already I was already like where I shouldn't be spending anymore. And then that cooler come up because I had because I'd sold something. eBay gave me £15 if you spend 50, but it was only for time limited. I literally only had like 4 or 5 days to use it, and then it gets removed. And I was like, bloody, that's £15 though, Effectively a £50 item is 35 quid. And I was thinking about, I thought, I don't want to buy any video games. I've got enough, but I do want to get this computer built. I was like, you've spent enough now. You can't do anymore. And then I thought about that cooler. I thought, that's 50 quid. We can get that for 35. Yeah, but you haven't got 35. No, but we could have 35. So I did it thinking, shit, we're going to have to try and sell something fast. Something's going to happen. There's going to have to be a miracle here. But, I'm ever the optimist. I see no reason why the iPod doesn't sell, and the PlayStation, even though everything says they probably won't. So I might find some more items just to see. I'm always searching around, looking around, buzzing around my eyes. What can I? Because I know people inherently want to spend less. So if I can find cheap things to sell, it adds up, But at the moment, I'm really out of ideas because I've sold things over time. I don't want to sell things I want because that just doesn't make sense. If I sell something I want myself, then what's the point? Because all you're doing, you're going to be chasing that after this. It's like, no. If I've got it and I want it, I'm keeping it. If it means I've got to take longer to sell this, build this, then so be it. And if it means I have to return some items, then we'll have to go backwards. Just going to have to realise, it's like a whole process here. We all get impatient. I do. Oh yeah, I get impatient. I just want to do everything. When I've got an idea in my head, I want it now. But in this way, I'm having to be pragmatic. Like I said, if I start the process, at least I know I'm building towards it, and that's enough at the moment. But yeah, this case looks nice, doesn't it? Christ almighty, that's loud. I was going to show the video on Amazon, but to be honest, it's not the best video. Just marketing spew. Hopefully it's all right. It doesn't look particularly huge. I'll get the picture back up quickly. Yeah, it's just obviously their video. That's with all the I want white lights. I don't want all the pinks and yellows and stuff. That cooler looks like it's probably expensive because it's got a temperature written on it. Might be green. I don't know if I'm going to like that too much. We'll see how that goes. But you know, I'm not going to pay £75 more just to get rid of a green LED. Dance, wouldn't it? So at this point, like the most graphics cards are black. It's going to be a lot cheaper to get a black one. Or if by the time you buy a white one, it might be that the next model up. So realistically, it's wiser to get a black one. But compared to them all, whether it looks good, I don't know yet. Because white would look really nice. But the accents of the board is black here. So I think, so for instance, it would slot in this slot here. No, let's get it up. Oh, you can't see, can you see it? Yeah. This is where the graphics card would go. So a black one sitting there in a white case, I don't think would look particularly bad because the rest of the board's black. But I do think you might lose a bit of the premium that is white. I think a white card would just look really nice, I think. But, you know, at this point, we're not going to be too picky about it. I'm just going to see the differences and things. But yeah, I think it's frustrating when you're so far away from building it, of course. But it can actually be more frustrating being so close to finishing it and you can't do anything about it. You know, if I'm like waiting for the processor to go in here and a graphics card to go in here and everything else is all connected and ready, it's like so frustrating because you just want them. Everything will make you impatient and say, I need it now, I need it now. But it's like, no, because if you try and get something weaker, you're going to have to sell it. And then it's just a whole process. I just want to make sure I get what I want. So I'm not going to cheap out on a CPU. I want a 9700. 7700 is the cheapest, is the lowest end I'd go. But I'm looking at 9700 plus. I'm not sure what one model will be on that. I think it's worth it because it goes up in increments. Effectively, like eBay do vouchers. It's really good. So £250 CPU you might get for £210. So that's good. But I think realistically, my budget is really for CPU, I'd spend about 200 to 250. If you go lower, you really are going to have issues with frame rates, performance, and later on, you're going to want to upgrade it. So you're better off just buying a really good one to start with, and you're never really looking again the whole time you own the computer. That's really where I'm up to. So I'd rather spend the 200, 250 on the CPU and then range from about 500 to 700 on a graphics card. Again, the more you spend, the bigger, the more powerful the card, the longer you're going to have it. You buy, let's say you buy a £500 card, maybe in 2 or 3 years you're buying another one. But maybe you buy the £700 card and you ain't got to upgrade it for a good few years, you know. Maybe you can hold on to it for 5 years. That's so. Although it seems a lot of money, the difference really means you don't have to keep spending so much all the time. But it'd be nice to have that finished for sure. Yeah, part of me was thinking no, because there's another video. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've done I've recently ordered a steering wheel. So I sold my racing wheel because I need the PlayStation version to go with this VR for the PS5 for Gran Turismo 7. So I've sold my one, and then I thought if you don't buy the wheel, you're gonna regret it and you're gonna get annoyed. Because I was gonna hold on to the money, but I thought, oh yeah, just get the wheel because you've sold the wheel to replace the wheel, you know. Because it was an Xbox PC, I needed the PS5 version and it PC. I've got a slightly more upgraded one. It cost an extra 30 quid, £30-40 than my model when I sold it. But in hindsight, this is before I decided I'm going to start building the computer again. Let's start making the process. £150 for that, 140. Whilst it might not be enough to get the CPU, it wasn't far off. Especially when I've got a game capture card as well, so I can capture the place. Oh, I do like that. I think that's worth it. I only paid £44 for that. It's a bargain. Yeah, they're about £120. I managed to get one for this model for 44 quid, and it literally calls the PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2 perfectly fine. So I'm doing all right overall, but it's definitely becoming a bit of a grind to get that, you know. Anyway, I'm not going to drag this out. I think I spoke way too long. In my geek mode that it is, I can still keep talking. Yeah, I can still talk. I can go all technical and look at all the bits and pieces and look at the reasons why I chose this one over the other models and things like that. Because there are cheap brands. You've got to be careful with memory. What you don't want is cheap knockoff stuff or stuff that's not really durable. So if you start having computer crashes, like you get the blue screens, a lot of the time your blue screen, if you get a blue screen, the computer crashes, usually a lot of the time it's the memory, it's the RAM. You might have one of them's corrupt. It might not be both of them are broke, but one of the sticks might be corrupt. You might take it out and it might work better without it because they might have a faulty one. So if you get a branded one, it's going to be more reliable. You don't want one of those Chinese knockoffs and things like that because you're going to have problems quite quick. Normally I get Corsair. I like Corsair. I like Kingston as well, but there are Kingston ones I was looking at, but they were slower. So we've got the 6,000 megahertz here. I was looking up because there's another variant here that's 6,400. I told you I was going to talk. If people are listening, they can listen. You've got 6,400 megahertz, and then you've got the 6,000 megahertz. You've got 400 extra megahertz on that one for another £10. So you're thinking the more the better. And I was actually doing some research because I haven't been building a computer for about 2 years. So there are things to catch up on. And naturally, you want the fastest one. You like for an extra 10, if it's going to make a difference, great, because that's your frame rates, that's your fluidity and all that. And again, reliability. But what the consensus was, 6,000 is the sweet spot. It's reliable. It performs great. Although you can get the 6,400 one, apparently it's more unstable, and it's not necessarily always compatible or something. So I thought, oh, now that might be a load of nonsense. It might not, but I'm not going to pay an extra £10 for something that might not be as reliable when I might as well do this one and it works fine. So that's why I ultimately went with this one. Now, Crucial are a brand that do memory. I'm pretty sure they do hard drives as well, but they're known for their memory. But like I say, I prefer Corsair, but I was looking for the best value I can get, and they're still a brand. So, and the fact that it's white as well, it went nice. Because this is the crazy thing. If we go here, they've got a black model. This is $86.99. Like I said, normally white is more expensive. Then I looked at the black one. I think it's £1 cheaper. £1 more. Look, it's literally £1 more for the black model. That's really rare because normally white is expensive. In this occasion, it actually worked out cheaper. But I don't think that's going to be the case for long. So anyway, that's ultimately why I went with that one. There are this as well. I can't remember what these are called. This number here, it equates, I think, to I don't know all of this stuff. It's like clock. I think that's the clock speed or something. There's something there where I don't really understand it all, to be honest. I think the lower the number, the better performance. I don't really know it deep enough, to be honest. It's always thrown me off that. I even have to. That's the one thing I have to Google because it's just it does matter. So if you've got one that's a lot higher than that, I just think it becomes. I think it's more likely to be corrupt. You're more likely to have issues with one that's the wrong timings. That's what it is. It's timings. So this is your clock speed, and that's your timings. So you don't want one that's it's at the high. I think the higher, the less sort of connected it is. Does that make sense? So yeah. Anyway, so I'm having to sort of Google that along with the other thing as well. But I thought bargain.